The sun had barely risen over the bustling city when Becky Williams stood in front of her mirror, admiring herself in the golden reflection of her well-decorated bedroom. She was a young woman of beauty and pride. Everyone in her neighborhood knew her as the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Williams, one of the wealthiest families in the city. Her father was a successful businessman with estates scattered across the country, and her mother was a fashionable woman who loved to show off her wealth. Becky grew up with luxury wrapped around her like a second skin. She had never known what it meant to go hungry, never known the taste of suffering, never walked in torn shoes. To her, life was all about glamour, class, and status. But there was something she had kept hidden from her family for months, something that would one day shake the very foundation of her home. His name was Richmond. Richmond was a humble mechanic who worked in a small workshop not far from Becky's university. He was young, strong, and had a quiet confidence that drew people to him. His hands were often stained with engine oil, his clothes never neat after a day's work, but his heart was pure and his intentions honest. Becky had met him one morning when her car broke down on her way to school. She had been furious, tapping her foot impatiently beside the car when Richmond walked over, offering to help. At first, she looked at him with disgust. His overalls were dirty and sweat clung to his forehead. But when he bent over her car and worked with gentle precision, she noticed something different. His calm voice, his polite manner, and the way he carried himself, he was unlike any other mechanic she had ever met. That was the beginning of their relationship. At first, it was casual. He would repair her car whenever it had issues, and she would bring him snacks or cold drinks as appreciation. Slowly, those little moments turned into conversations, and the conversations grew into laughter. Before long, Becky found herself looking forward to seeing Richmond. Against her better judgment, she fell in love. But this love was not something she was proud of. She never told her parents about him. To her family, Richmond was beneath them. To her friends, he was just another poor man struggling to survive and very good in bed. Only one person knew, her best friend, Patience. Patience was different from Becky. While Becky loved luxury, Patience valued character. She was kind, down to earth, and always spoke the truth, even when it was hard to hear. She never judged Richmond by his poverty. Instead, she respected his hard-working nature and how genuinely he cared for Becky. Becky, Patience would often say, don't look down on Richmond. A man's today doesn't decide his tomorrow. A day can change a man's life forever. But Becky never listened. She would wave her hands and laugh. Patience, you don't understand. My parents will never allow me to marry a mechanic. I can't throw away my future for love that won't put food on the table. Still, despite her words, she kept seeing Richmond. Their secret relationship went on for 4 months. And then, one evening, Richmond surprised her. It was a quiet evening. Becky had agreed to meet Richmond at a small park far from her neighborhood where nobody would recognize her. Richmond arrived in his usual work clothes, but this time there was something different in his eyes. He held her hands. Becky looked at him, half curious. Becky, Richmond said softly, I know we come from different worlds. I know your parents may never see me as worthy of you, but I also know that I love you with everything in me. I want to spend my life with you. I may not have riches today, but I have dreams, and I'm working hard to build a future. Will you marry me? Becky's eyes widened. For a moment she was speechless. Richmond had just proposed, after only 4 months of dating. Her heart raced, but not with joy, rather with shock and pride. You want to marry me? She asked slowly, pulling her hands away. Yes, Richmond said firmly, I want to build a home with you. I may not have much now, but I promise to take care of you. I will never let you regret saying yes to me. Becky laughed bitterly. Richmond, you must be dreaming. Do you know who I am? Do you know my parents? They will never allow this. How can I face my family and tell them I'm marrying a mechanic? You don't even own your own workshop. You still work under another man. And now, after just 4 months, you think you can propose to me? Please don't make me laugh. Richmond's face fell. He looked at her with pain in his eyes. So is that what you see when you look at me? Just a poor mechanic? What else should I see? Becky snapped. You're not in my class, Richmond. I enjoyed our time together, but marriage? No, never. My parents will never allow it, and I won't fight them over you." Richmond stood there, silent for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "I understand. If that's how you feel, then I will not force you. But remember this, Becky, love is not about wealth, and tomorrow is never certain. The man you despise today may be the man everyone respects tomorrow." He turned and walked away. Later that night, Patience came over. Becky, still angry, told her everything. "He actually proposed to me, Patience. Can you imagine? After 4 months, and in his dirty work clothes. How can a man with nothing ask me to marry him?" Patience shook her head. "Becky, you should not mock him. He loves you. Don't you see it? And what if tomorrow he becomes a great man? What will you do then?" "Great man," Becky scoffed. "Patience, please don't start preaching. My parents want the best for me. They'll never agree, and I won't go against them. Richmond should know his place." Patience sighed deeply. "I fear you may regret your words one day." Becky frowned. "Regret? Never. I know what I'm doing." But deep inside, Becky felt something she could not admit. She felt a strange emptiness, a small voice whispering that perhaps she was making a mistake, but her pride was too strong to let her see the truth. That night, Richmond sat alone in his small room, staring at the simple ring he had saved up to buy for Becky. Tears welled in his eyes, but he held them back. He had given her his heart, and she had crushed it. Still, he told himself, one day the truth will come out, and when it does, she will know what she lost. The next morning, Richmond woke up early, though he had barely slept. His mind was heavy, his heart weighed down by Becky's cruel words. He had poured out his love and hopes before her, only to be reminded of his poverty. He washed his face with cold water, trying to shake away the pain. Then, after a long silence, he made a decision. "If Becky cannot listen to me," he muttered to himself, "perhaps she will listen to Patience." Patience was the only person who ever spoke to him with respect in Becky's circle. She had a good heart, and Richmond knew she cared for Becky's future. So later that day, Richmond left his workshop and went to the small cafe where Patience often read her books after classes. When she saw Richmond approach, she smiled warmly. "Richmond, what a surprise. Please, sit down." Richmond lowered himself onto the chair opposite her, but his face was troubled. Patience noticed immediately. "What is wrong?" she asked softly. Richmond sighed. His hands trembled slightly as he spoke. "Patience, I don't know who else to talk to. You are Becky's best friend. Yesterday, I asked her to marry me." Patience's eyes widened. "You proposed already?" "Yes," Richmond said. "I know it may seem fast, but my heart is sure. I love her, Patience. I want to spend my life with her. I may not have riches now, but I am working hard. I believe love is not about money, but about standing together through life. That is why I proposed. But," his voice cracked, "she laughed at me. She said I was not in her class. She said her parents will never accept me." Patience's heart sank. She had feared this would happen. "Richmond," she said gently, "you must understand Becky's upbringing. She has lived in wealth all her life. Her parents raised her to believe that money is everything. To her, marrying a poor man feels like falling from grace." Richmond sighed. "But I am not just a poor man. I am a man with dreams. I am working hard every day. Why can't she see that? Why can't she believe in tomorrow?" Patience reached across the table and touched his hand. "I believe in you, Richmond. I can see the man you are and the man you are becoming. But Becky, she is blinded by pride." Richmond's voice lowered to a whisper. "That is why I came to you. Please, Patience, I beg you, talk to her. She listens to you more than anyone else. Tell her not to despise me. Tell her that a day can change a man's life. Tell her love is worth more than wealth. Please, help me." Patience looked into his eyes. She saw sincerity, pain, and a love so strong it almost broke her heart. She nodded slowly. "I will talk to her," she promised, "but Richmond, you must prepare yourself. Becky is stubborn. If she has made up her mind, it may not be easy to change it. Still, I will try." Richmond's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Patience. You are truly a good friend. Even if she rejects me forever, I will never forget your kindness." That evening, Patience went to Becky's house. The Williams mansion was grand as always, with tall gates and polished cars parked in the driveway. She found Becky in her room, painting her nails and humming to music. "Patience," Becky smiled when she saw her. "Come in, my dear. You came just in time. Look at this new dress I bought yesterday." Patience smiled faintly, but she didn't sit down. "Becky, we need to talk." Becky frowned. "What is it? You look serious. It's about Richmond." Becky rolled her eyes. "Not again." "Patience, must you always bring him up?" "Yes," Patience said firmly, "because he came to me today. He begged me to talk to you." "Becky, do you realize what you did to him? You laughed at his proposal. You threw his love back in his face." Becky waved her hand dismissively. "So what? He should know his place, a mechanic proposing to me after 4 months. That is madness." "No, Becky," Patience said, her voice rising with emotion. "It is not madness. It is love. Richmond loves you with his whole heart. Do you think it is easy for a man like him to kneel before you and propose? He may not have wealth, but he has something richer than gold. He has sincerity. And you rejected him because of pride." Becky crossed her arms, then smirked. "Pride? Patience, don't be dramatic. Let me tell you the truth since you keep defending him. I will never marry Richmond. Never. Do you know why I'm with him? It's because he is young, handsome, and very good in bed." That's all. Patience froze in shock. "Becky." "Yes," Becky continued boldly. "Chief, the man my parents want me to marry is old and weak. He can't satisfy me. Richmond is exciting, strong, and he makes me feel alive. But marriage, never. In short, we are not even dating. He is my toy boy. Nothing more." Patience's eyes filled with tears. "Becky, this is wickedness. You are playing with a man's heart, a man who truly loves you. Don't you fear God? Don't you fear tomorrow? What if the poor mechanic you despise today becomes great tomorrow? What if his name rises above chiefs? Will you not regret?" But Becky only laughed coldly. "Regret? No, my dear. I know what I'm doing. Richmond should be grateful that a woman like me even gives him attention. When I'm done, I'll walk away, and that's the end." Patience shook her head slowly, disappointment heavy in her chest. "One day, Becky, these words will return to haunt you. And when that day comes, may God give you the strength to face the truth." She walked out. She could hardly believe the words her friend had just spoken. Becky was blind, blinded by pride, blinded by pleasure, blinded by the wealth she had been born into. As she reached the gate, Patience whispered to herself, "How can she treat a man like Richmond this way? He is not perfect, but his heart is true. If only she could see beyond money and pleasure. One day she will regret this." The driver at the gate greeted her politely, but Patience barely answered. Her mind was racing. She thought about Richmond sitting somewhere with hope in his heart, waiting for good news. How could she face him now? How could she tell him that the woman he loved didn't see him as a partner, but as a plaything? Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Richmond sat outside his small workshop. The moonlight fell gently on the tools scattered around him. He had finished fixing 3 cars that day, but his heart was too restless to sleep. He thought about Becky's laughter, the way she had dismissed his proposal. He thought about the ring he had saved up to buy, lying uselessly in his drawer. "She said I'm not in her class," he whispered to the night sky. "She said her parents will never accept me. But what about my heart? Does it count for nothing?" His chest tightened. Tears threatened to fall, but he swallowed them back. He remembered his late mother's words, "Son, never let anyone despise you because of today. Tomorrow belongs to God, and he can lift you higher than kings." Richmond clenched his fists and whispered a quiet vow. "If Becky cannot value me now, it is her choice. But I will not give up on myself. One day, the world will see me for who I truly am." A few days passed, and Becky almost forgot the seriousness of Richmond's proposal. She went back to her usual lifestyle, shopping with friends, going to parties, and spending money without care. One evening, Becky sat in the living room with her mother. Mrs. Williams was a tall, elegant woman who always dressed in expensive lace and gold jewelry. She believed strongly in social class and was proud of her family's wealth. Becky suddenly giggled. Her mother looked at her curiously. "What is it, my dear?" What's making you laugh like that? Becky leaned closer and whispered as if sharing a joke. Mummy, you won't believe it. Richmond, yes, that mechanic, he actually proposed to me a few days ago. Her mother's eyes widened, then she threw her head back and burst into laughter. Becky joined her, and soon they were laughing so loudly that the maid in the kitchen paused her work in surprise. My daughter, Mrs. Williams said, still wiping tears of laughter. A mechanic? Proposed to you? This is the funniest thing I have heard all week. Imagine, a poor boy with greasy hands thinking he can join this family. Becky nodded proudly. Exactly, Mummy. I told him never. How can a man like that dream of marrying me? I only follow him because he is young, handsome, also good in bed, but marriage? Never. You and Daddy will never allow it. Mrs. Williams smirked. You are correct. Your father would faint if he even heard such nonsense. But, She paused, thinking. Becky tilted her head. What is it, Mummy? Her mother smiled wickedly. Why don't you invite him here? Tell him you have thought about it and that you want him to come and see me. Pretend that you are considering his proposal. We will test him. Becky raised her eyebrows in interest. Test him? How? Mrs. Williams lowered her voice, though they were alone. Your father is traveling for a business trip tomorrow. That is perfect. If Richmond comes, I will make him work in the garden, cutting grass, carrying loads, doing dirty work. And after he finishes, we will humiliate him. We will remind him that this family does not mix with poverty. That way, he will never dare to dream above his level again. Becky clapped her hands in excitement. Mummy, you are too smart. Yes, let's do it. Let me invite him tomorrow. He will think I have accepted his proposal, but in truth, it will be the beginning of his shame. Both mother and daughter laughed again, their voices echoing through the grand living room. The next morning, Becky called Richmond. Her voice was soft and sweet, pretending to be serious. Richmond, she said, I have been thinking about what you asked me. At first, I was shocked. But maybe I judged you too quickly. I want you to come and see my mother. She is at home, and my father is away on a trip. If you are serious about me, come tomorrow afternoon. Richmond's heart leapt with joy. He almost dropped the phone. Becky, do you mean it? You want me to meet your mother? Yes, Becky replied smoothly. Come to the house tomorrow at 2 p.m. Don't be late. When she ended the call, she and her mother exchanged mischievous smiles. This is going to be fun, Mrs. Williams said. Becky nodded. Tomorrow, Richmond will know his place once and for all. Meanwhile, Richmond was overjoyed. She said yes. She wants me to meet her mother, he told his fellow workers, who clapped him on the back and cheered. That night he couldn't sleep. He cleaned his best shirt, polished his shoes until they shone, and even rehearsed in front of the mirror how he would greet Becky's mother. Good afternoon, Ma. My name is Richmond. I love your daughter and I want to marry her, he said proudly to his reflection. For him, tomorrow was the beginning of a new life. He had no idea that it was a trap. The next day came like a festival in Richmond's heart. He woke up early, his heart pounding with excitement. He had barely slept, but his eyes shone with hope. This is it, he whispered to himself. Becky is finally giving me a chance. If her mother sees my sincerity, maybe she will accept me. And when her father returns, everything will fall into place. He carefully put on his cleanest shirt, a crisp white one he had ironed the night before. He brushed his trousers until there was no dust left, and polished his shoes until they reflected the light. He even sprayed a little perfume, something he rarely used because it was expensive for him. Before leaving, he looked at the small ring again, the one he had saved up to buy for Becky. He placed it gently in his pocket and smiled. Today, everything changes. At exactly 2 p.m., Richmond stood before the tall gates of the Williams mansion. The security man looked at him with suspicion. Yes. Who are you looking for? The guard asked. Richmond swallowed nervously. I'm here to see Miss Becky. She invited me. The guard raised an eyebrow but made a quick call. A few minutes later, Becky herself appeared at the door. When she saw Richmond, she smiled sweetly, though her smile was filled with hidden mischief. Richmond, you came, she said softly. Please come in. My mother is waiting for you. Richmond's heart warmed at her words. He walked into the mansion, his eyes wide as he looked around at the expensive furniture, the sparkling chandelier, and the polished marble floor. It felt like a palace compared to his small rented room. Mrs. Williams was seated in the living room, dressed in fine lace, a golden necklace shining on her chest. She gave Richmond a quick glance from head to toe, then forced a thin smile. "So," she said slowly, "this is Richmond." Richmond bent slightly in respect. "Good afternoon, Ma. My name is Richmond. I love your daughter, and I want to spend my life with her. I may not have riches now, but I have dignity, dreams, and a heart full of love for Becky. Please accept me." Mrs. Williams chuckled under her breath and exchanged a quick glance with Becky, who was struggling to hold back her laughter. "My dear," Mrs. Williams said smoothly, "your words sound fine, but love alone is not enough in this world. If you truly want to marry my daughter, you must show me that you are hard-working. Money doesn't fall from the sky. A man must sweat for his family." Richmond nodded eagerly. "Yes, Ma. I am not afraid of work. I work every day in the workshop to make an honest living. Nothing scares me when it comes to hard work." Mrs. Williams smiled wickedly. "Good. Then let's see. The gardener has not come today. Why don't you step outside and help in the garden? Cut the weeds, clear the dry leaves, and carry those heavy pots to the corner. If you do well, maybe I will consider your request." Richmond blinked in surprise. For a moment he thought he had misheard her. You want me to work in the garden now?" "Yes," Mrs. Williams replied sharply. "Marriage is not a game, young man. If you cannot handle simple work in my house, how will you handle the responsibilities of a family? Go and prove yourself." Becky coughed into her hand to hide her laughter. She whispered under her breath, "This is going to be fun." Richmond hesitated. Part of him felt insulted. After all, he had come to meet his beloved's mother formally, not to be treated like a servant. But another part of him told him to endure. "If I must win Becky's family, I must show humility. This is my test." So with a deep breath, Richmond said, "Very well, Ma. I will do it." For the next 2 hours, Richmond worked in the large garden under the hot afternoon sun. He cut weeds until his hands ached, carried heavy pots until his back bent, and cleared dry leaves until sweat poured down his face. The mansion's maids peeked through the windows, whispering among themselves. "Who is he?" one asked. "Becky's boyfriend?" Another maid chuckled. "If this is love, it looks like slavery." Inside, Becky and her mother sipped juice comfortably in the cool, air-conditioned living room, watching Richmond from the window like a show. "Look at him," Becky said with a smirk. "He really thinks this will make us accept him." Mrs. Williams chuckled. "Foolish boy. Let him sweat. When he finishes, we will remind him of his place." Finally, Richmond dragged himself back into the living room, his shirt soaked with sweat, his hands trembling from exhaustion, but his eyes still carried hope. "I have finished, Ma," he said weakly but respectfully. "I hope I have shown you that I am willing to work hard. Please don't judge me by my poverty today. Judge me by my sincerity and my dreams. I truly love your daughter. Becky could not hold it anymore." She burst into loud laughter. Mrs. Williams joined her, their voices filling the grand room. Richmond, Mrs. Williams said between laughs. "Do you think we would ever allow our daughter to marry a mechanic? Look at you, sweating like a common laborer in my sitting room. You will never be part of this family. Never." Richmond froze. He looked at Becky, his face pale. "Becky, is this true? Did you invite me here just to humiliate me?" Becky crossed her arms and smirked. "Yes, Richmond. Did you really think I would marry you? Please don't deceive yourself. You are just a toy to me." Nothing more. Richmond felt his chest tighten, his heart, full of hope when he arrived, now shattered like broken glass. But instead of shouting or cursing, he stood tall, wiped his sweaty face, and said quietly, "Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Becky. I have learned something today. Love cannot survive where there is no respect." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving mother and daughter still laughing, unaware that their prideful game had just planted the seed of their own downfall. The next day, Richmond sat quietly in his workshop. He had opened the doors as usual, but his heart was not in the work. His mind replayed the events of the day before, the garden, the sweat, the laughter, and Becky's cruel words. "You are just a toy to me." Just then he heard a soft voice calling his name. "Richmond." He looked up and saw Patience standing at the door, holding a food basket. She wore a simple dress, her face filled with concern. Richmond forced a weak smile. "Patience." "You came." Patience walked in gently, placing the basket on the table. "I brought you some food." "You look like you have not eaten." Richmond looked away, his voice low. "You didn't have to trouble yourself." "I don't have an appetite." Patience sat down across from him. "I'm sorry, Richmond." "I truly am. Becky called me yesterday evening and told me what happened at her house. She laughed about it as if it was a game. My heart broke when I heard. That's why I came today. You don't deserve this." Richmond closed his eyes, shaking his head slowly. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Patience. I never expected that from them. I thought Becky's mother at least would be different. A mother should know better. Instead, she joined her daughter to mock me. They called me a fool in my presence." Patience's eyes filled with tears. "I know. And it's cruel. It is wrong to treat anyone that way, especially someone who came with pure intentions. Richmond, you are not a fool. You are a good man. You are hardworking, humble, and sincere. Don't let their pride make you forget who you are." Richmond's voice grew heavier. "But I loved Becky, Patience. I thought she was the one. I was ready to give her my life. I thought if I showed her family respect, they would see my heart. I even believed her when she said she wanted me to meet her mother. I never imagined it was a trap." Patience placed a gentle hand on his arm. "That's because you are a good man. You believe in people's goodness. But Becky, she is blinded. She cannot see your worth. Richmond, one day, she will regret it. But by then, it may be too late for her." Richmond turned his face away, hiding the moisture in his eyes. He whispered almost to himself, "I was humiliated, Patience. Not because of my poverty. I don't mind hard work. I was humiliated because they never saw me as human. They laughed as if I had no heart." Patience tightened her grip on his arm. "Listen to me. Your worth is not decided by Becky or her mother. Their laughter does not define your future. A day can change everything, Richmond. I believe it with all my heart. Don't give up." Richmond finally looked at her, his eyes red but soft. "Thank you, Patience. You are the only one who speaks to me like this. Sometimes I wonder why Becky doesn't have your heart." Patience smiled sadly. "Because we are not the same. Becky values money. I value people. That's the difference." For the first time that day, Richmond managed a small smile. He opened the basket and saw warm rice, chicken, and a bottle of water. His chest tightened again, but this time with gratitude. "You even brought me food," he said softly. "You don't know what this means to me." Patience shook her head. "It's nothing. You deserve kindness after what you went through." Richmond took a deep breath, then whispered firmly, "Patience, I will never forget what Becky and her mother did to me. But I will not let it break me. I will rise above this. One day they will see me, not as a mechanic to laugh at, but as a man they should have respected." Patience looked at him with pride. "And I believe you will. Richmond, your story is not over. It's only beginning." A month passed. Richmond worked harder than ever in his workshop, but his mind was never at peace. In that month, he began to notice something he had been hiding even from himself. His heart always calmed when Patience was around. Whenever she visited, her smile gave him strength. Whenever she spoke, her words carried wisdom. She was gentle, kind, and full of truth, the complete opposite of Becky. But the thought troubled him. How can I love Patience? She is Becky's best friend. She will never believe me. She will think I am a liar. She will think I am only running to her because Becky rejected me. Still, the feelings refused to go away. They grew stronger each day until one evening, Richmond could no longer hold them inside. He met Patience outside her university gate. "Patience," he said quietly, "I need to talk to you. Please don't be offended by what I'm about to say." Patience looked at him curiously. "What is it, Richmond? You look serious." Richmond swallowed hard. I am sorry, Patience. But I must tell you the truth. Please forgive me if this hurts you. The truth is, I love you. I have loved you for a long time, even when I was with Becky. Patience froze. For a moment she thought she had misheard. Then she burst out in disbelief. You must be joking. Richmond, you love me, and yet you wanted to marry my friend. Oh, please, do you expect me to believe this nonsense? Richmond's face burned with shame. Patience, you don't understand. Yes, I thought I loved Becky, but what I felt for her was shallow. With you, it is different. You respect me, you see me as a human being, you comfort me. My heart chooses you. I am not joking. Patience shook her head angrily. No, Richmond. You are confused. Maybe you are just lonely. Or maybe you are trying to use me to heal your wounds. But I am not that kind of woman. You cannot love me and at the same time claim you wanted to marry Becky. You are a joke. Her words cut him deeply, but before he could speak again, she turned and walked away quickly, leaving him standing alone like a lost child. Richmond whispered after her, Patience, please. I am serious. But she didn't look back. That night, Richmond got home feeling restless. He paced around his small room, unable to sit still. Finally, he picked up his phone and called Patience. Patience, please listen, he said the moment she answered. I was not joking earlier. I meant every word. I am serious. I love you. You are the woman my heart has been searching for. There was silence for a moment. Then Patience's voice came, sharp and angry. Richmond, stop this madness. Stay away from me. Don't call me again. Before he could reply, the line went dead. She had blocked him. Richmond sank onto his bed, covering his face with his hands. God, what have I done? She thinks I am a liar. She thinks I am going crazy. Just then, his phone rang again. This time, it was not Patience. It was his father. Richmond hesitated before answering. His father's voice came firm and commanding through the line. Richmond, the man said, time is running out. You know the family tradition. You cannot remain unmarried forever. I am giving you only 2 months to bring a wife home. If you fail, I will change my mind about you, and the inheritance that belongs to you will be given to someone else. Richmond sat up straight, shocked. Father, please. 2 months? Yes, his father said sternly. You have been living quietly, away from the eyes of the world, but soon you must step into your rightful place. I need to know you are responsible enough to choose a wife. 2 months, Richmond. Don't fail me. The line went dead. Richmond dropped the phone slowly, his heart pounding. The weight of 2 storms now pressed on his shoulders, Patience rejecting him and his father's ultimatum that could change his entire future. He whispered to himself, 2 months. God, what am I going to do? And so the clock began to tick on Richmond's destiny. A few days later, Patience went to visit Becky. She had been carrying a heavy heart since Richmond's confession, and though she was angry with him, she needed to speak with someone. Becky was sitting on the balcony, sipping juice and scrolling through her phone. When she saw Patience, she smiled lazily. Patience, my dear, where have you been hiding? Sit down, sit down. Patience sat, but her face was serious. She hesitated, then finally said, Becky, I need to tell you something. It's about Richmond. At the sound of his name, Becky raised her eyebrows, then smirked. Ah, that mechanic again. What about him? Patience took a deep breath. He told me something last week. He said he loves me. Becky's eyes widened for a moment, then she burst into loud laughter. She laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. He told you that? Patience, you should have accepted. You know you like poor men. And let me tell you the truth, he is very good in bed too. You can have him. I'm done with him long ago. Patience looked at her in shock. Becky, are you serious? You won't be angry if I ever liked him. Becky waved her hand carelessly. Angry? No, never. Why would I be angry over a mechanic? Please, I have moved on to bigger things. Richmond is free. If you want him, take him. Patience lowered her eyes, then spoke slowly. Becky, the truth is, I have loved him for long. Even before I knew you were dating him. One day I was walking home and I saw him by the roadside, bent over a car he was repairing. He was focused, working with his hands, and something in me admired him from that moment. But I could not tell him. Weeks later, I found out he was with you, and I buried my feelings inside. Becky blinked in surprise. You mean you liked him first? And you didn't tell me? Patience, you should have said something. I know Richmond would not have rejected you. In fact, you both fit each other. Two poor people together. Perfect match. Patience frowned. Becky, you will never change. Always looking down on people. Is poverty a disease? Must you mock everyone who is not as rich as you? Becky laughed again. Oh, come on, Patience. You should be happy that we are friends. If we were not friends, do you think you would even sit in this kind of mansion? You should thank your God every day, because you and I are not on the same level. Patience's eyes hardened. Whatever, Becky. I know one thing. My story will change one day. God will lift me. I don't need to step on others to rise. Becky rolled her eyes. Suit yourself. But if you really want your story to change, I can help you. I can introduce you to one of my sugar daddies. He is wealthy, generous, and can take care of you. Forget that mechanic boy. You need a rich man. Patience sat up sharply. Never. Becky, don't ever suggest that to me again. I will never sell myself for money. I would rather marry a poor man with dignity than destroy my future with a sugar daddy. Becky chuckled and shook her head. You see, that's why you will remain poor. Mechanic wife, poor girl. That's what you will always be. Patience stood, her face filled with quiet strength. Call me what you want, Becky. But remember, pride goes before a fall. Life is not always the same. A day can change a man, and when it does, you will know who truly won. 2 days later, Patience could not hold it anymore. She had been restless since her talk with Becky. Her heart kept reminding her of Richmond's words and of her own hidden feelings. At last, she decided to make things right. That evening, she went to Richmond's workshop. He was sitting on a small wooden stool. When he saw her, he stood up quickly, surprise in his eyes. Patience. You came, he said softly. Patience looked nervous and spoke gently. Richmond, I came to say I'm sorry. I was harsh to you the other day. I was confused. I thought you were joking. But the truth is, I love you too. Richmond's eyes widened. You mean it? Yes, Patience said firmly. I have loved you for long, even before Becky. I was only afraid to say it. That's why I reacted the way I did when you told me. But now I'm ready. I have accepted you. For a moment, Richmond could not speak. His heart was too full. Then he smiled, the biggest smile he had shown in weeks. He stepped closer and held her hands. Patience, he said, his voice shaking with joy. You don't know what this means to me. I don't need you as just a girlfriend. I want you to be my wife. Patience's face lit up. Yes, Richmond. Of course, I will marry you. I have loved you for long, and I will never let you go. Richmond pulled her into a gentle embrace, his heart beating fast. Thank you, my love. You have healed my broken heart. With you, I am complete. They stayed in each other's arms for a while, feeling peace and happiness that words could not describe. After some time, Richmond whispered, Patience, be ready to meet my parents. Patience pulled back slightly, her eyes wide in shock. Your parents? Richmond, I thought you said you don't have a mother, and you never talk about your father. Who are they? Richmond smiled mysteriously and touched her cheek. Don't worry, my love. You will understand soon. Everything will be clear when the time comes. Patience looked at him with confusion, but also with trust. Richmond, are you hiding something from me? He only kissed her hand gently and said, All I can tell you now is that my family is not what people think. But don't be afraid. Whatever happens, I want you by my side. Are you ready for that? Patience nodded slowly, her heart racing. Yes, Richmond. I am ready. I will stand by you. Richmond smiled again. Then soon you will know the truth. And I promise, it will change everything. The next evening, Patience sat in her small room, her heart full of joy. She could not keep it to herself anymore. She picked up her phone and called Becky. When Becky answered, Patience said softly, Becky, I need to tell you something. Richmond proposed to me, and I said yes. We are engaged now. There was silence for a few seconds, then Becky burst into loud laughter. You? Engaged to Richmond? Oh my God. So you have finally accepted to be a poor mechanic's wife-to-be. Congratulations, Mrs. Mechanic. Her laughter echoed so loudly that Patience felt her cheeks burn. Becky added cruelly, I told you before, you and Richmond fit each other perfectly. Poor boy, poor girl, enjoy your mechanic marriage. I can't wait to see the two of you struggling in a small room with no electricity. Patience tried to stay calm. Becky, laugh as much as you want. I know what I feel. Richmond is not just a mechanic, he is a man with dignity, and I love him. But Becky was not listening. She was still laughing when she ended the call. Immediately after, she ran to her mother and told her the news. Mummy, guess what? Patience is now engaged to Richmond, the mechanic. Mrs. Williams threw her head back and laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks. Oh, this is too sweet. So the poor girl has joined with the poor boy. What a perfect comedy. Mother and daughter laughed together for minutes, mocking Richmond and Patience, blind to the truth that was about to shake their world. A week later, Richmond told Patience to dress well. Where are we going? She asked curiously. He smiled mysteriously. Just trust me, my love. Today you will finally understand what I couldn't explain before. They entered a black car that drove smoothly through the city until it reached a heavily guarded area. Patience's eyes widened when she saw the tall gates, the soldiers standing in attention, and the grand buildings inside. Richmond, this looks like the presidential villa, she whispered nervously. What are we doing here? Did you bring me to the wrong place? Richmond only smiled and held her hand. Baby, calm down. You will know why we are here soon. Her heart raced. Finally, they entered the main residence. Patience could hardly breathe. She clutched Richmond's arm. Richmond, please tell me the truth. What is happening? Why are we here? Richmond looked into her eyes and whispered, Patience, you stood by me when everyone mocked me. You saw me as human when others despised me. Now it's time for you to know who I truly am. They stepped into the grand hall, and there, sitting on a golden chair, was the president himself. Patience froze. Her knees felt weak. She whispered, That's the president. Richmond smiled proudly and led her forward. Yes, Patience. Meet my father, President Adams. Patience gasped. She looked at Richmond in shock, her heart beating faster than ever. Richmond bowed slightly before the president and spoke with confidence. Daddy, this is the woman I want to marry. The woman who stood by me when everyone rejected me. Her name is Patience. And Patience, meet my father, the president of this nation. The president smiled warmly. He stretched his hand toward Patience. Welcome, my daughter. Any woman my son chooses is already my daughter. You are welcome to this family. Patience's eyes filled with tears. She turned to Richmond, whispering, You never told me. You are the president's son. Richmond squeezed her hand gently. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for my father's name. And you did. That's why you are the one. Patience could no longer hold back her tears. She bent slightly in respect before the president, then turned and hugged Richmond tightly. At that moment she knew every insult from Becky, every mockery from her mother, every moment of pain was now behind her. She was no longer just a mechanic's wife-to-be, she was the chosen bride of the president's son. And destiny had finally turned. 2 days later, the whole city was buzzing with whispers. It was on the news that the president's only son, Richmond Adams, had been seen with a beautiful young woman. Journalists had caught sight of him walking into the villa, holding her hand. Nobody knew who she was, but the rumor was spreading quickly. At the Williams mansion, Becky was painting her nails when her younger sister Naomi rushed into the room, holding her phone. Becky, come and see. Look at the news. Becky frowned. What is it, Naomi? Can't you see I'm busy? Naomi shoved the phone in front of her face. Becky's eyes landed on the headline, President's son introduces his fiancée at the villa. And there, in clear pictures, was Richmond, dressed neatly in a suit, holding Patience's hand, standing beside the president. For a moment, Becky thought her eyes were lying. She blinked twice, but the image didn't change. She jumped to her feet. What? Richmond? The president's son? Impossible. Her scream was so loud that her mother rushed into the room. What is it? Why are you shouting like this? Becky shoved the phone into her hand. "Mummy, look. The mechanic. Richmond. He is not just a mechanic, he is the president's son." Mrs. Williams gasped so loudly that her necklace almost fell from her neck. She held the phone with trembling hands, staring at the picture. Jesus Christ, the boy we insulted, the boy we made to work in our garden, the boy we laughed at. Becky grabbed her mother's hand. "Mummy, what do we do?" "This can't be true. It means Patience is going to marry into the president's family." Patience, my poor friend, a girl who had nothing. Her mother's face twisted with regret and anger. "No, Becky. We cannot allow this. We must act fast. Richmond must marry you, not Patience. We cannot let that poor girl rise above us. Never." Just then, Mr. Williams returned from his trip. He entered the room, confused to see his wife and daughter panicking. "What is going on here?" Mrs. Williams rushed to him, showing him the news on her phone. "Look, my husband. Do you see? The mechanic boy, Richmond. He is the president's son." Mr. Williams froze. His mouth dropped open. "What? Are you sure this is not a joke?" "It is not a joke," Becky cried. "It is everywhere. And now he is engaged to Patience." Mr. Williams' face turned red with shock. "We have made the greatest mistake of our lives." Becky fell to her knees, crying, "Daddy, please. We must do something. We must convince him to marry me instead. I don't care if he is already engaged to Patience. He must take me. I will beg him if I have to." Mrs. Williams nodded quickly. "Yes, we must not waste time. He is a Muslim. His religion allows more than one wife. We will tell him that he can keep Patience, but he must also marry Becky. That way, our family will still enter the president's house." Mr. Williams thought for a moment, then said firmly, "Tomorrow we will go to the villa. We will beg, we will cry, we will do whatever it takes. Richmond must not belong to Patience alone." Becky wiped her tears, hope lighting her face again. "Yes, Daddy. Richmond still loves me. I know it. He only went to Patience because I rejected him. If I show him I have changed, he will take me back." But Naomi, Becky's younger sister, who had been quiet all this while, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but sharp. "Becky, you are deceiving yourself. Richmond begged you. He loved you sincerely, but you mocked him. You and Mummy laughed at him and humiliated him. You called him your toy boy. You threw him away. Now it is too late. He has found a woman who respects him." Becky glared at her sister. "Shut up, Naomi. You don't understand anything." But Naomi only shook her head sadly. "I understand more than you think. Pride has blinded you, and now you are reaping what you sowed." Her words hung in the air like a bitter truth that nobody wanted to accept. The next morning, the Williams family prepared for a visit none of them had ever imagined they would make. Becky could not face the shame of it, so she refused to go. She locked herself in her room, crying bitterly. "I can't look at Richmond after what I did to him," she whispered to herself. "Let Mummy and Daddy go." And so, her parents went without her. Mr. and Mrs. Williams dressed in their finest clothes. Mrs. Williams wore an expensive lace gown and a large gold necklace, hoping it would give her confidence. Mr. Williams wore a dark suit and polished shoes. But inside, both were trembling. The drive to the presidential villa was long and quiet. Neither of them spoke. The weight of regret filled the car. When they arrived, they stepped out nervously, holding hands. The gates of the villa stood tall and guarded by uniformed soldiers. One of the security men stepped forward. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Ma. Can we help you?" Mr. Williams cleared his throat nervously. "Yes, please. We are here to see Richmond Adams." The guard frowned slightly. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Mrs. Williams said quickly, "but please tell him that Mr. and Mrs. Williams are here. We are his family friends." The security man looked at them with suspicion. "I'm sorry, Ma, but we can't let anyone in without permission." They pleaded, but the guards stood firm. Hours passed. The sun grew hotter, but the couple refused to leave. "We will not go," Mrs. Williams said, her eyes teary. "We will stay here until he agrees to see us. We must beg him for forgiveness." Their clothes began to wrinkle from the heat and sweat rolled down their faces, but they stayed. At last, word reached inside that two people were outside waiting to see Richmond. When Richmond heard their names, his face hardened. "The Williams family?" he repeated quietly. "The same people who insulted me and laughed at me. What could they possibly want now?" Patience, who was sitting beside him, touched his hand gently. "Maybe you should hear them out, my love. Let your heart be at peace. Don't let bitterness remain." Richmond sighed deeply, stood up, and walked outside. When Mr. and Mrs. Williams saw him approaching, they quickly knelt down. Mrs. Williams began to cry. "Richmond, please, my dear son, forgive us. We did not know who you were. We treated you badly, and we are ashamed. Please, have mercy," Mr. Williams added with a trembling voice. "We were blinded by pride. We thought you were just a poor mechanic. We didn't know you were the president's son. Please don't hold it against us." Richmond looked at them quietly for a moment. He remembered that hot afternoon when they made him work in their garden and laughed at him as he sweated. The memory still stung. He spoke slowly but firmly. "Mr. and Mrs. Williams, life is strange, isn't it? You insulted me when I had nothing. Now you are kneeling before me because you know the truth. But I am not God. I will not punish you. I have already forgiven you." Mrs. Williams wiped her tears quickly and forced a smile. "Thank you, my son. You have a good heart. That's why we came, to ask for another favor. Please marry our daughter, Becky. She has realized her mistake. She loves you. Don't let her suffer." Richmond's face changed. "I'm sorry, Ma, but it's too late. I am getting married in a week's time, to Patience." Mrs. Williams gasped. "No, it doesn't matter. You are a Muslim. Your religion allows you to marry more than one wife. You can keep Patience and still marry Becky. We don't mind. Please accept her." Richmond shook his head firmly. "No, Ma. Not all Muslims live by that choice. It's not a command, it's a decision. And I have made mine. I will have only one wife. And that woman is Patience." Mr. Williams tried to speak, but Richmond raised his hand. His voice was calm, but full of authority. "I respected your family once, but you showed me humiliation instead of kindness. You saw my poverty and forgot my humanity. I will never forget how you laughed while I worked in your garden. You thought I was beneath you. Now you are begging because you know who I am. Let this be a lesson to you. Never look down on anyone because life can change in a day." Mrs. Williams cried loudly. "Please, Richmond, don't turn us away. We are sorry." But Richmond turned to the guards. "Please escort them out. And if they ever come back, thinking they can force their way in again, arrest them. If they love jail, they can return." The guards nodded and gently led the weeping couple back to their car. As they drove away in shame, Mrs. Williams sobbed uncontrollably. "What have we done? We mocked a prince and lost everything." Mr. Williams said nothing. His face was pale. He only whispered under his breath, "Pride is a terrible disease." Inside the villa, Richmond returned to Patience, who stood waiting anxiously. "Are you all right?" she asked. He nodded softly. "Yes, my love. They came to beg, but the past is behind me. I have forgiven them, but I will never go back. You are my future." Patience smiled, tears in her eyes. "And I will walk that future with you." As they embraced, Richmond looked up quietly and whispered, "Thank you, God, for turning my pain into purpose." Days passed, and the news of Richmond's engagement to Patience filled every newspaper, radio station, and social media page in the country. Everyone was talking about how the president's son had chosen a humble, respectful woman who once believed in him when he was just a mechanic. Patience's name became a symbol of grace and goodness. But in another corner of the city, Becky's life was falling apart. Since her parents returned from the villa in shame, the Williams mansion no longer felt like home. The house was full of silence and regret. Mr. Williams spent most of his days locked in his study, avoiding people. Mrs. Williams could hardly eat, and Becky could not sleep at night. Every time she saw Richmond and Patience's pictures online, her chest tightened with pain. She would stare at the smiling faces and whisper, "That could have been me." But pride and greed still lived in her heart. Instead of learning her lesson immediately, she returned to her old ways. She started seeing one of her sugar daddies again, a very rich man who spoiled her with gifts and money. She told herself that if she couldn't have Richmond, she would at least enjoy wealth. At first, things seemed fine. She wore expensive clothes, posted pictures online, and pretended to be happy. But one evening, everything changed. The man's wife discovered the affair. And unlike before, this woman did not stay silent. She exposed Becky's messages, pictures, and recordings to the public. Within hours, Becky's name was everywhere again. This time, not for beauty or class, but for shame. Her friends abandoned her, people mocked her online, no one wanted to be seen with her anymore. Even her former sugar daddy stopped taking her calls. Soon, Becky fell into depression. She stopped dressing up, stopped going out, and cried herself to sleep every night. Her mother tried to comfort her. "My daughter, it is all right. We all make mistakes." But Becky shook her head weakly. "No, Mummy. I destroyed myself. I had the chance to be loved truly, but I chose pride and money. I laughed at Richmond. I called patients poor. Now look at me. Nobody respects me. Nobody wants me." Mrs. Williams wiped her tears silently. Deep inside, she knew her daughter was right. Meanwhile, Richmond and Patience's love grew stronger each day. The villa was full of joy and celebration as their wedding approached. One sunny morning, the president called them both to his office. He smiled warmly. "My son, I am proud of you. You chose love, not status. And you, Patience, have brought peace and humility into our family. May God bless your union." Patience knelt slightly and said, "Thank you, sir. I will love and respect your son always." Richmond smiled at her lovingly, "And I will honor you for the rest of my life." A week later, the nation watched their wedding live on television. It was a grand ceremony, full of light, laughter, and love. Leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people all attended. The bride looked like a queen, and the groom looked like a prince. In a small corner of her room, Becky watched the wedding on her phone, tears streaming down her face. She whispered, "That was supposed to be me. I had him first, but I was blind." She remembered her cruel laughter, her insults, her pride, and now she had nothing left but regret. Her younger sister Naomi came quietly into the room, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Becky, please don't cry. You can still change. Life has not ended for you." Becky sobbed softly. "Naomi, I destroyed everything with my pride. I don't deserve a second chance." Naomi hugged her gently. "You do, Becky. But you must first forgive yourself. Pride brought you down, but humility can lift you up again." Becky nodded slowly. For the first time, she didn't argue. Her heart was tired. She looked at the wedding again on her phone and whispered, "God bless them. They deserve happiness." "I have learned my lesson." Far away at the villa, Richmond and Patience danced joyfully, surrounded by family and friends. Their love had triumphed over pride, mockery, and pain. As they exchanged their final vows, the president raised his hand in blessing. "May your union remind the world that love is not about money or class, but about character, respect, and faith." The crowd clapped and cheered. Patience smiled up at Richmond, tears of joy shining in her eyes. "I told you one day your story would change," she whispered. Richmond smiled back. "And I told you, my love, that I would never forget the one who stood by me when everyone else walked away." And with that, their new life began, built not on wealth, but on truth, loyalty, and love that no money could ever buy.